Gecko is a scary story about a young man who buys a new pet and gets more than he bargained for. There was a young man in his 20s who moved into a new apartment in New York City. The night he moved in, he was lying awake in bed when he heard strange noises coming from his kitchen. When he turned on the lights, he was horrified to see hundreds of tiny cockroaches scurrying under the refrigerator and kitchen cupboards. He realized that his apartment was completely infested with cockroaches. The next day, he asked one of his coworkers for advice about his cockroach problem. The coworker said she had a similar problem and had bought a pet gecko. She let the gecko loose at night, and it took care of all the cockroaches. That evening, after work, the young man visited a pet store and bought a gecko. When he got home, he let the gecko out of its cage. It immediately scurried into the kitchen and disappeared under the refrigerator. Then he heard a gecko sound followed by a loud snap as the gecko's tongue caught hold of a cockroach and pulled it back into its mouth. Days went by, and the young man saw fewer and fewer cockroaches. The gecko was doing its job well. Occasionally, he would hear the telltale snap of the gecko's tongue, and he knew it was catching the cockroaches and gobbling them up. One day after work, he was making dinner for himself when he saw the gecko chase one of the last cockroaches in the house under the refrigerator. He saw the cockroach scurry under it with the gecko close behind, struggling to follow. That's when the young man realized the gecko was getting bigger. He didn't see the gecko for days after that. Sometimes, he would catch a glimpse of it out of the corner of his eye. Each time, it appeared to be bigger and bigger. One night, as he was lying in bed, he heard some strange noises in his room. Then he heard gecko and a loud snap. The next day, the young man was absent from work, but nobody thought anything of it. They just assumed he wasn't feeling well and had decided to take a sick day. When he didn't show up the next day, or the next, his coworkers became very concerned and called the police. When the police knocked on the young man's door, they got no answer. They broke down the door and entered the apartment. In the bedroom, they found no trace of the young man, but they were horrified to see an enormous gecko sitting on the bed. Its belly was huge and stretched, and it just lay there lazily, regarding them with its big reptilian eyes. When they looked closer, they noticed something horrifying. Sticking out of the corner of its mouth, there appeared to be a human foot.